we are learning to program in the Visual Basic computer language. We will create a console application for a payroll evaluation. In this introductory lesson to the Visual Basic language, we will create a small console application and perform some simple calculations. Start Microsoft Visual Studio. In the Visual Studio 2022 dialog box, click Create a new project. In the Create a new project dialog box and in the Languages combo box, select Visual Basic. In the list of project templates, click Console App. It should be selected already. Click Next. In the Configure your new project dialog box, change the project name to Payroll Evaluation 1. Set the location to anything you want. Click Next. In the Additional Information dialog box, in the Framework combo box, select the highest version and click Create. Here's the code we will use. To start, we display some introductory lines. For our application, we will request some values from the user. We request a first name, then we will request a last name. Finally, we request an hourly salary. Then we will announce to get some values for the time worked for the week. Our timesheet will consist of only 1 week. So we request the time worked on Monday, followed by the time worked on Tuesday, followed by the time worked on Wednesday, followed by the time worked on Thursday, and finally the time worked on Friday. To get the total time worked for the week, we will add the values for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. When we start our calculation, we consider that the user worked regular time. In other words, the regular time is the same as the time worked. The overtime is set to 0. The overtime pay is set to 0 also. And the regular pay is gotten by multiplying the hourly salary by the time worked. In case the user worked overtime, we consider that this is done by working over 40 hours. To perform the calculation, we use an if conditional statement. We state that if the time worked is over 40, we will set the regular time to 40, the regular pay to the hourly salary times 40, to calculate the overtime, we subtract 40 from the time worked. To calculate the overtime pay, we first multiply the hourly salary by 1.5 to consider that the user worked time and a half. We multiply that result by the overtime, and that gives us the overtime pay. Finally, to get the net pay, we add the regular pay to the overtime pay. The rest of the application is used to show the payroll summary. To test the application, since we are using Microsoft Visual Studio, on the main menu, you click Debug, Start without debugging. That will display a DOS window. When the values are requested, I type the first name and press Enter. I type last name and press Enter. I type the hourly salary and press Enter. For the time worked, for Monday, I type 7 and I press Enter. For Tuesday, I type 8 and I press Enter. For Wednesday, I type 6.5. I press Enter. For Thursday, I type 8.5, I press enter. And for Friday, I type 7.5 and I press enter. And the application shows a payroll summary. To close the DOS window, I press any key. Using an opposite conditional statement. In the previous section, we used a greater than operator to check a condition. That operator has an opposite, which is the less than or equal operator. We will apply that operator in our next example. To proceed, change the section that makes the calculation as follows. This time, we reversed the calculations made in both sections. We started by setting the regular time to 40. For the overtime, we subtracted 40 from the time worked. For the regular pay, we multiplied the hourly salary by 40. For the overtime pay, we multiplied the hourly salary by 1.5 because the user worked time and a half. We multiply the result by overtime and we get the overtime pay. For the other calculations, we use an if conditional statement. This time, we use the less than or equal operator. Now we state that if the time worked is 40 or less than 40, we set the regular time to the time worked. We set the overtime to 0. We set the regular pay to the hourly salary times the time worked. And we set the overtime pay to 0. The rest of the code looks the same. To test the application, on the main menu, we click Debug, Start without debugging. When the DOS window comes up and it's requesting some values, I type the first name, and I press enter. I type the last name, and I press enter. I type the hourly salary, and I press enter. For the time worked for the week, for Monday, I type 9.5, and I press enter. For Tuesday, I type 8, I press enter. For Wednesday, I type 10.5, and I press enter. For Thursday, I type 9, and I press enter. For Friday, I type 8.5, and I press enter. And the application shows the payroll summary. To close the DOS window, I press any key. That was our exercise. You can find a link to the code in the description section. Thank you.